The spotlight effect. We often overestimate how much people notice and remember our actions. This is because we are the center of our own experiences, making it difficult to imagine how little others actually focus on us. In reality, most people are preoccupied with their own concerns, barely registering our minor embarrassments or mistakes. This realization can significantly reduce social anxiety and self-consciousness. If we internalize the idea that people are not scrutinizing us as much as we think, we can act more freely, take more risks, and experience less fear of judgment. This principle is particularly relevant in situations like public speaking, social interactions, and even decision-making, where the fear of being watched or criticized holds us back. The truth is, most of what we do is quickly forgotten by others, and recognizing this can be liberating. The mere exposure effect. Our preference for familiarity is a deeply ingrained psychological tendency. The more we see or experience something, the more likely we are to develop a preference for it. This applies to songs, people, brands, and even abstract concepts. The reason behind this effect is evolutionary. Familiar things are often perceived as safe, while unfamiliar things trigger caution. This is why repeated exposure to an idea or product makes it feel more trustworthy. The media and marketing industries exploit this effect, ensuring that logos, slogans, and faces are seen repeatedly to build positive associations. It also explains why cultural norms and traditions feel natural to those within them, but strange to outsiders. Understanding this effect can help us become more conscious of how our preferences are shaped by exposure rather than inherent quality. The paradox of choice. More options seem like a good thing, but in practice, they can overwhelm us. When faced with too many choices, we tend to second-guess our decisions, experience decision fatigue, and fear making the wrong choice. This paradox is especially noticeable in modern consumer culture, where an abundance of options, from streaming services to career paths, often leads to stress rather than satisfaction. Studies show that people are more content when they have limited but meaningful choices. This is why structured lifestyles, minimalist living, and simplified routines can enhance happiness. In contrast, those who are always searching for the perfect option often experience dissatisfaction as they dwell on the paths not taken rather than enjoying what they have chosen. The endowment effect. Ownership alters our perception of value. We irrationally place higher worth on things we own simply because they belong to us. This explains why people struggle to part with old belongings, even when they are no longer useful. It also affects economic behavior, making people demand more money to sell an item than they would be willing to pay to acquire it. This effect is rooted in evolutionary psychology, as humans historically needed to protect their resources for survival. However, in modern contexts, it often leads to poor financial decisions and cluttered living spaces. Recognizing this bias can help individuals detach emotionally from possessions and make more rational decisions about what to keep, sell, or let go. Loss aversion. The fear of losing something is a stronger motivator than the potential of gaining something of equal value. Studies in behavioral economics show that people will go to greater lengths to avoid losing $100 than they would to gain $100. This deeply ingrained bias affects decision-making in finance, relationships, and personal growth. It explains why people cling to failing investments, avoid risk, and hesitate to make life changes even when the potential rewards outweigh the downsides. Marketers and businesses exploit this by emphasizing potential losses rather than gains. Example, act now before you miss out. Understanding loss aversion can help individuals take smarter risks and overcome unnecessary fears that hold them back. The Baader-Meinhof phenomenon. This cognitive bias causes us to notice something more frequently after we first learn about it. It is not that the thing itself has become more common. Rather, our brain has become more attuned to recognizing it. This effect is linked to the way our subconscious filters information. It prioritizes things that seem newly relevant. While harmless in most cases, it can lead to superstition, conspiracy theories, or a false sense of synchronicity. People often misinterpret this as the universe sending them signs, when in reality, their brain is simply focusing on a pattern that was always there. Recognizing this phenomenon helps us maintain a more rational perspective on the information we encounter daily. The Dunning-Kruger effect. People with little expertise in a subject tend to overestimate their knowledge, while experts tend to underestimate their own competence. This is because beginners lack the awareness to recognize the depth of what they don't know, while experts understand the vastness of their field and acknowledge their limitations. This cognitive bias is why unqualified individuals sometimes display extreme confidence, while highly knowledgeable individuals are more cautious in their claims. It has widespread implications in politics, education, and social discourse, where misinformation often spreads because confident yet uninformed individuals speak louder than those who are truly knowledgeable. Understanding this effect can encourage intellectual humility and a greater willingness to learn from true experts. The Peter Principle. In hierarchical organizations, employees are often promoted based on their competence in a previous role, rather than their suitability for the new one. As a result, they eventually reach a position where they are no longer competent, leading to inefficiency. This theory explains why so many businesses suffer from poor leadership, as employees keep advancing until they are promoted beyond their skill set. The principle suggests that rather than promoting people indiscriminately, organizations should provide role-specific training and ensure that leadership positions are given to those with actual leadership ability. For individuals, recognizing this principle can encourage more thoughtful career planning, ensuring that promotions align with actual strengths rather than just prior success. Confirmation bias. Our brains are wired to seek out information that supports our existing beliefs while ignoring or dismissing contradictory evidence. This bias affects everything from politics to religion to scientific understanding, making it difficult for people to change their minds. Social media algorithms intensify this effect by showing users content that reinforces their pre-existing views, leading to ideological echo chambers. This bias explains why debates rarely change minds. People interpret the same evidence in ways that fit their prior beliefs. Becoming aware of confirmation bias can help individuals think more critically, seek diverse perspectives, and remain open to changing their opinions in light of new information. The observer's illusion. We assume that we perceive reality objectively, but in truth, our perception is filtered through personal experience, biases, and attention. Two people can witness the same event, yet interpret it completely differently. This raises a deep philosophical question. Is there such a thing as objective reality, or is everything subjective? Science suggests that even our sensory input is not a direct representation of the world, but an interpretation constructed by our brain. This idea is further reinforced by quantum mechanics, where the act of observation can change the outcome of an experiment. If reality itself is shaped by perception, then to what extent is the world around us a product of our own consciousness? The 1% reality shift. Small, consistent changes in habits or perspectives can drastically alter our future. The theory suggests that even a minor shift, like a 1% daily improvement, can compound into significant transformation over time. This idea is widely applied in self-improvement, finance, and education, demonstrating that major life changes do not require dramatic overhauls, but rather sustained, incremental progress. Recognizing this principle can help individuals escape the feeling of being stuck and instead focus on small, manageable steps toward growth. Over time, these micro-adjustments lead to radically different outcomes, reinforcing the idea that true change is a process, not a singular event. The law of opposites. Everything in the universe exists in duality, light and dark, good and evil, joy and sorrow. This principle suggests that every experience, no matter how negative, has an opposing force that balances it. Struggles pave the way for growth, failures teach valuable lessons, and pain often leads to strength. The law of opposites highlights the importance of contrast in defining meaning. Without hardship, success would feel empty. This idea encourages people to accept difficulties as necessary for personal evolution and to understand that no situation is permanent. Every downturn contains the seeds of its opposite. By embracing this philosophy, individuals can find deeper meaning in their struggles and appreciate the inevitable cycles of life. The Pygmalion effect. Expectations shape reality. When people are expected to succeed, they perform better, while those with lower expectations tend to fulfill them as well. This effect is particularly evident in education, where students perform in accordance with their teachers' or parents' beliefs about their abilities. The Pygmalion effect reveals how powerful belief can be, not only in shaping individual behavior, but in influencing society at large. If expectations can alter performance, then consciously setting high standards for oneself and others can create profound change. It also warns against the dangers of negative expectations, which can become self-fulfilling prophecies. On a larger scale, this theory implies that societal attitudes about race, gender, and class may shape individual potential more than actual ability, making expectation management a critical tool for social progress. Cognitive dissonance. People experience psychological discomfort when their actions and beliefs contradict each other. To resolve this discomfort, the mind often rationalizes decisions rather than changing behavior. This explains why individuals justify bad habits, stay in toxic relationships, or refuse to accept evidence that challenges their worldview. Recognizing cognitive dissonance can help individuals become more self-aware and make conscious choices rather than being trapped in rationalization loops. The key to overcoming it is accepting discomfort as a sign of growth rather than suppressing or distorting reality to maintain a false sense of consistency. When applied to societal and political issues, cognitive dissonance reveals why people defend harmful ideologies or make excuses for unethical actions. It is easier to rationalize than to admit being wrong. The ship of Theseus. If every part of an object is replaced over time, is it still the same object? This thought experiment raises deep questions about identity and continuity, extending beyond physical objects to personal identity. If every cell in your body regenerates over years, are you still the same person you were a decade ago? This paradox forces us to confront whether identity is tied to physical components, consciousness, or an evolving sense of self. The ship of Theseus is widely discussed in philosophy, ethics, and even artificial intelligence. If a person's memories and consciousness were uploaded into a new body, would they still be the same individual? This idea also challenges legal and moral definitions of identity. At what point does an individual or institution become something entirely new? Hyperreality, Baudrillard's theory. Modern society is saturated with media, symbols, and simulated realities that blur the line between what is real and what is fabricated. Baudrillard argued that hyperreality replaces genuine human experiences with artificial ones. For example, social media presents curated, filtered versions of life that distort reality. People interact more with representations, movies, advertisements, social media personas, than with the real world. Over time, these simulations become more real than reality itself, shaping culture and perception in profound ways. Hyperreality warns us about the dangers of living in illusions and the need to seek authenticity in a world dominated by fabricated experiences. The implications of this theory extend to politics, entertainment, and economics, where constructed narratives often hold more power than truth itself. The Mandela effect. Large groups of people vividly remember events or facts incorrectly, suggesting that collective memory is deeply flawed, or, as some theorists suggest, that reality itself may shift. Famous examples include the misremembered spelling of Berenstain Bears, or people recalling a non-existent 1990s movie featuring Sinbad as a genie. While psychologists explain this as a quirk of memory and suggestible groupthink, others speculate about alternate realities, glitches in the matrix, or even time distortions. Regardless of its cause, the Mandela effect demonstrates that memory is unreliable and that even large-scale consensus can be based on falsehoods. This raises questions about how historical records are shaped and whether our understanding of the past is more fluid than we assume. The trolley problem. A classic ethical dilemma. If you could save 5 people by sacrificing one, would you pull the lever? This thought experiment forces us to confront moral decision-making. Should we prioritize utilitarianism, the greatest good for the greatest number, or deontological ethics, adhering to principles, regardless of consequences? The trolley problem has evolved with modern dilemmas like self-driving cars. Should an autonomous vehicle prioritize saving its passengers or pedestrians? This theory forces us to examine the complexities of morality and how decisions carry unintended consequences. It also exposes the limits of black and white ethical reasoning, demonstrating that moral choices are often shaped by context rather than fixed rules. The veil of ignorance, Rawls' theory of justice. If you were to design society without knowing what position you would be born into, rich or poor, privileged or oppressed, what kind of system would you create? John Rawls' thought experiment forces us to consider fairness and justice from a truly neutral perspective. If someone had an equal chance of being born in any condition, they would likely create a society that is fair to all. The veil of ignorance challenges personal biases and asks us to build a world based on ethical principles rather than self-interest. It is particularly relevant in debates about wealth distribution, human rights, and systemic inequalities, offering a way to reimagine justice beyond personal privilege. Eternalism. The past, present, and future all exist simultaneously. According to this view, time does not flow. Every moment exists eternally, and our perception of time moving forward is an illusion. This is consistent with Einstein's theory of relativity, where time is relative rather than absolute. Eternalism raises profound questions about fate and free will. If all events already exist, can we ever truly change the future? It challenges our fundamental understanding of existence, suggesting that we are simply experiencing a specific slice of an already determined reality. This theory intersects with questions of consciousness, reincarnation, and even the possibility that our choices are mere illusions within an unchanging timeline. Solipsism. What if the only thing you can truly know exists is your own consciousness? Solipsism is the idea that nothing outside of your own mind can be confirmed as real. Every person, every event, and even the entire universe could be a projection of your consciousness. While this idea may seem extreme, it raises fundamental questions about perception and existence. How can we prove that anything beyond our own awareness is not just a mental construct? If all sensory experiences are interpreted by the brain, how can we be sure they reflect an external reality? While few people fully embrace solipsism in everyday life, it serves as a philosophical exercise to remind us of the limits of our knowledge and the subjective nature of experience. The dream-wake cycle. What if every time you wake up, you're actually falling asleep in another reality? This theory suggests that dreams are not just random brain activity, but glimpses into alternate lives. Have you ever had a dream so real that waking up felt like an abrupt transition rather than a return to reality? Some theories propose that our dreams may be just as real as our waking lives, and that our consciousness simply shifts between different existences. This idea blurs the line between reality and imagination, leading to the unsettling question, how can we ever be sure we are truly awake? The multiverse theory. For every choice you make, an alternate universe exists where you made a different one. The multiverse theory suggests that reality is not singular but infinite, with countless parallel universes unfolding based on every possible decision. If true, this means that every version of you, successful, failed, heroic, villainous, exists somewhere. This concept, supported by some interpretations of quantum mechanics, challenges the notion of destiny, suggesting that every possibility plays out in some version of reality. But if infinite realities exist, does any single choice truly matter? Or are all outcomes equally valid in the grand scope of existence? The Ouroboros effect. Time is not a straight line, but a loop. The ancient symbol of the Ouroboros, a snake eating its own tail, represents an endless cycle of creation and destruction. This theory proposes that time endlessly repeats itself, meaning you have lived this exact life before and will live it again infinitely. If true, free will becomes an illusion, as every action you take has already happened an infinite number of times before. Some interpretations of physics even suggest that time might be cyclical at a cosmic scale, where the universe expands and collapses in an eternal loop. The simulation hypothesis. What if everything you perceive is part of a highly advanced computer simulation? Some scientists and philosophers argue that if it is possible to create simulated realities, then statistically, we are more likely to be living in one than in the original real universe. If true, this means every thought, experience, and physical law we take for granted is merely part of an intricate program. Could glitches in the system explain phenomena like déjà vu or Mandela effects? And if we are in a simulation, who or what is running it? The Boltzmann brain hypothesis. According to this theory, given infinite time, the universe could randomly assemble a self-aware consciousness, just floating in space. This consciousness, known as a Boltzmann brain, would have all the memories and thoughts of a person, but no actual past or future. It raises disturbing questions. What if you are just a disembodied mind, created by chance, believing in an entire life that never actually happened? If the universe is infinite, does that mean Boltzmann brains are statistically more likely to exist than real people? Quantum immortality. If the multiverse is real, then you can never truly die. Every time you reach a moment of death, reality splits, and a version of you continues in a universe where you survived. This means that from your own perspective, you will never experience death. You will always wake up in a timeline where you avoided it. While this concept is speculative, it suggests that consciousness is unkillable, always shifting into the next surviving branch of reality. If true, what does this mean about the nature of the self? Is every version of you still you? The Noosphere, Teilhard de Chardin's theory. The Noosphere is the idea that human consciousness is evolving into a global mind, where all thoughts, ideas, and knowledge merge into one collective intelligence. As technology advances, humans are increasingly interconnected, creating a network of shared thoughts that some believe is an early form of a collective consciousness. Could the internet, artificial intelligence, and global communication be the first steps toward a hive mind? If humanity continues on this path, individual identity may fade, replaced by a unified mental experience where thoughts are no longer personal but part of a larger intelligence. Causal loop paradox. Time travel could create loops where cause and effect become indistinguishable. Imagine you go back in time to give a famous scientist their own groundbreaking discovery. They publish it, history unfolds, and years later, you learn about their work, only to go back in time and give it to them. Who originally created the idea? This paradox, known as a causal loop, suggests that some events may have no clear point of origin. If such loops exist, they challenge our understanding of time, causality, and even free will. Could reality itself be stuck in a loop where certain events repeat eternally? The Library of Babel. If you were to generate every possible combination of letters and words, eventually you would create every book ever written, every book that could be written, and even a perfect biography of your life. The Library of Babel, originally conceived by Jorge Luis Borges, is a thought experiment that suggests randomness contains order. In an infinite library, there exists a book that describes your life from birth to death, yet it is lost among meaningless gibberish. If infinite possibilities exist, does that mean everything is predetermined, or is true meaning impossible to find in the vast chaos? Idealism, Berkeley's theory. What if physical objects don't exist independently, but only as perceptions in our minds? George Berkeley's idealism argues that nothing exists outside of perception. Reality itself is a construct of the mind. If no one observes a tree in a forest, does it exist at all? Berkeley suggests that objects continue to exist only because they are always perceived by a divine consciousness. This theory forces us to question the very nature of material reality. Are we living in a mental projection rather than a physical world? If perception is the only proof of existence, then what happens when no one is left to observe? Could this imply that reality is dependent on a grand observer, such as God or a collective human consciousness? If so, does that mean reality could change if perception changes? The extended mind hypothesis. Does your mind extend beyond your brain? This theory proposes that tools, technology, and even social interactions are not just external aids, but actual extensions of human cognition. When you use a smartphone to remember information or rely on GPS for navigation, is that knowledge truly separate from your mind? If thinking and problem solving are distributed across external objects, then consciousness itself may not be confined to the brain. The boundaries of identity become blurred. If a person's mind extends into their environment, where does the individual truly end and the world begin? This challenges the traditional idea of intelligence being purely internal, suggesting that we are already evolving into a cybernetic species, where technology is as much a part of thought as neurons. Determinism and the illusion of free will. What if every decision you make was predetermined before you were even born? Determinism is the idea that all events, including human choices, are the result of prior causes, meaning free will is just an illusion. Every thought, every action, and even your personality may be dictated by genetics, environment, and the laws of physics. If everything is determined, can we hold people morally responsible for their actions? Or are we just biological machines following an inevitable script? This theory challenges the foundation of personal responsibility, justice, and the notion of self-control. Some scientists believe quantum mechanics may allow for randomness, potentially rescuing free will. while others argue that even our thoughts are the result of cause and effect processes. If true, are we simply passengers in a pre-written reality? The bicameral mind hypothesis. Ancient humans may not have thought the way we do today. The bicameral mind hypothesis suggests that early human consciousness was divided. One part of the brain spoke in hallucinated voices, often perceived as gods or spirits, while the other part obeyed. If true, this means self-awareness as we experience it today is a relatively recent development. Could our ancestors have lived in a world where divine commands were not supernatural, but internal brain functions? And if consciousness evolved once, could it evolve again into something entirely different? If this theory is correct, then religious experiences, prophecies, and even certain mental illnesses may be remnants of an earlier cognitive state, forcing us to reconsider the origins of human spirituality and social order. The hard problem of consciousness. Science can explain how the brain processes information, but it cannot explain why it feels like anything to be you. This is the hard problem of consciousness. Why does subjective experience exist? Why does seeing the color red feel like something rather than just being a mechanical data process? Some theories suggest that consciousness is a fundamental force of the universe, like gravity or electromagnetism, rather than just an emergent property of the brain. If true, could consciousness exist independently of biology? Could the universe itself be aware? This question challenges the core of neuroscience, philosophy, and physics. If the universe does have its own form of consciousness, could we one day communicate with it? Could artificial intelligence develop subjective experience? The answers to these questions could redefine what it means to be alive. The split brain experiment and multiple consciousnesses. Your brain is divided into two hemispheres, and in extreme cases, they can function separately. Studies on split brain patients, people whose brain hemispheres were surgically disconnected, show that each hemisphere can have independent thoughts, preferences, and even personalities. If the two halves of the brain can form separate conscious experiences, what does this mean for the unity of the self? Are we actually composed of multiple consciousnesses working together? And if so, which part is truly you? This raises unsettling questions about identity. If two separate consciousnesses can exist within one skull, is consciousness a spectrum rather than a singular state? Could a person's mind one day be divided into multiple independent entities, or even copied into a digital form? Pantheism. What if God and the universe are the same thing? Pantheism suggests that divinity is not a separate being, but the totality of existence itself. In this view, every star, planet, and living creature is part of a singular divine consciousness. Rather than a personal deity, pantheism proposes a cosmic intelligence embedded within reality. If this is true, then the universe is not just a collection of objects, but a living, self-aware entity. This challenges traditional religious beliefs and suggests a deep interconnectedness between all things. If the universe is conscious, does it have a purpose? Could our thoughts and actions contribute to the evolution of a greater cosmic intelligence? The no-self theory, anatta. The self may be an illusion. In Buddhist philosophy, anatta, the doctrine of non-self, argues that our sense of a permanent, unchanging identity is a mental construct. Our thoughts, emotions, and experiences change constantly, so what part of us is truly us? Neuroscience supports this idea, showing that our sense of self is a fluid, ever-shifting pattern of brain activity. If the self is an illusion, then what happens to the idea of personal identity, ego, and even death? Are we just temporary processes passing through existence with no fixed core? If so, how does that impact how we live our lives? should we let go of attachment and embrace impermanence as the ultimate truth? Reincarnation and transmigration of souls. What if death is not the end, but merely a transition into another life? Many spiritual traditions suggest that consciousness is reborn in different bodies across multiple lifetimes, carrying with it lessons from past experiences. Some claim that under hypnosis or deep meditation, individuals recall detailed past lives they could not have otherwise known. If reincarnation is real, what determines where and how we are reborn? Are we endlessly repeating the cycle of life until we reach some ultimate realization, or is consciousness simply recycling itself through the universe? If reincarnation exists, what does that mean for justice? Do our past lives influence the circumstances of our current existence? Cosmic solipsism. What if you are the only true consciousness in existence, and everything else is a construct designed specifically for you? Unlike traditional solipsism, which suggests your mind creates reality, cosmic solipsism posits that a higher intelligence created the entire universe just for your experience. Every event, every person, and even the laws of physics may exist solely to shape your personal journey. If this is true, then what is the purpose of the illusion? Are you being tested, observed, or simply entertained? And if you are the only true consciousness, what happens when you cease to exist? If this theory holds any truth, then does anything outside of your personal experience truly matter? Could this entire reality be some kind of simulation, where the only goal is to sustain your awareness? The anthropic principle. Why does the universe seem perfectly designed for life? The anthropic principle suggests that the fundamental laws of physics appear fine-tuned for our existence because, if they weren't, we wouldn't be here to observe them. Some interpretations argue that this is mere coincidence, while others propose that infinite universes exist, each with different physical laws. Ours just happens to be one where life is possible. Does this mean the universe was created with conscious observers in mind? Or is our perception of fine-tuning just an illusion of survival bias? If the conditions for life were even slightly different, we might not exist at all. This raises a haunting question. Was the universe always destined to give rise to intelligent life? Or are we an improbable accident in a chaotic cosmic lottery? The holographic universe hypothesis. What if everything you experience is just a two-dimensional projection, like a cosmic hologram? Some physicists propose that all the information in the universe is encoded on a lower dimensional surface, much like a hologram storing a three-dimensional image. If true, then space and time as we perceive them may be emergent properties, not fundamental truths. This idea arises from studies of black holes, where all the information that falls in seems to be stored on the event horizon. Could it be that our reality itself is just an illusion generated by a deeper, unseen dimension? If this hypothesis is correct, then what we consider depth and motion may simply be a form of complex mathematical encoding. Are we living inside an advanced simulation where everything, including our consciousness, is part of a projected illusion? The ekpyrotic universe theory. What if the Big Bang wasn't the beginning, but just one in an endless cycle? The ekpyrotic universe theory suggests that our universe was created not from nothing, but from the collision of two higher dimensional brains in a multiversal space. This would mean that time stretches infinitely in both directions, with countless universes being born and destroyed in a never-ending cosmic dance. If true, our universe is just one moment in an eternal process, and the Big Bang may have simply been a transition point, not a singular beginning. This challenges the traditional idea that time had a starting point. instead suggesting that reality is a cyclical entity. If universes continuously rise and fall, does that mean past and future universes may be influencing our present reality? Quantum superposition and the observer effect. Before something is observed, does it even truly exist? Quantum mechanics suggests that particles exist in multiple states simultaneously until they are measured. This is known as quantum superposition. The act of observation collapses these possibilities into a single outcome. If reality depends on being observed, does that mean consciousness plays a direct role in shaping the physical world? Some interpretations suggest that without an observer, the universe would remain in a state of probability, making us question whether objective reality exists at all. If observation determines reality, then are we active participants in creating the universe? And if no consciousness existed, would the universe itself cease to exist? The many worlds interpretation. What if every decision you make creates a parallel universe? According to the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics, every possible outcome of a quantum event occurs, each in its own separate reality. This means that infinite versions of you exist, living out every conceivable path. In one universe, you became an astronaut. In another, you never existed. If true, then reality is an unimaginably vast branching structure where every possibility unfolds simultaneously. But if every choice spawns a new universe, what determines which version of you experience? Does consciousness follow a specific path, or are we merely unaware of our alternate selves? Could our dreams be glimpses into these parallel existences? The black hole information paradox. What happens to information when it falls into a black hole? According to classical physics, anything swallowed by a black hole is lost forever, but quantum mechanics suggests that information cannot be destroyed. This contradiction is known as the black hole information paradox. If black holes truly erase information, then physics as we know it is incomplete. Some theories propose that information is stored on the event horizon, or even leaks out as Hawking radiation. If we resolve this paradox, we may unlock the deepest secrets of space-time and quantum gravity. Could black holes be cosmic hard drives, storing past versions of the universe? If so, could we one day retrieve lost information from them? The heat death of the universe. Is the universe slowly dying? The second law of thermodynamics states that entropy or disorder always increases over time. Eventually, all energy will be evenly spread out, and no usable energy will remain. This is known as the heat death of the universe. In this scenario, stars will burn out, black holes will evaporate, and the cosmos will become a dark, featureless void. If true, then all life, thought, and activity are temporary blips in an ultimately cold and lifeless universe. Is there any way to escape this fate, or is the death of the universe inevitable? Some theorists speculate that advanced civilizations may find a way to manipulate entropy, but for now, the eventual fate of everything remains an unsolved cosmic mystery. The zero-point field theory. Could energy exist in the vacuum of empty space? The zero-point field theory suggests that even the emptiest parts of space are teeming with fluctuating quantum energy. Some physicists speculate that tapping into this energy could revolutionize technology, potentially leading to limitless power or even faster than light travel. If this theory is correct, then nothingness itself may be an illusion, and space is actually filled with unseen forces that shape the fabric of reality. Could this be the key to understanding dark energy, or even unlocking new dimensions of existence? And if infinite energy exists all around us, why have we yet to harness its potential? The cosmic consciousness hypothesis. Is the universe itself a vast thinking entity? Some physicists and philosophers suggest that consciousness is not confined to individual beings, but is a fundamental property of the universe. If true, then reality is not just a mechanical system, but a self-aware, evolving intelligence. Could this explain why the universe appears so finely tuned for life? If the cosmos is conscious, does it have intentions, and can we communicate with it? This idea challenges both science and spirituality, hinting that human awareness may be a small fragment of a much greater mind. If the universe is a conscious entity, does it learn, change, or even dream? The ultimate fate of the universe. What happens in the end? The universe could expand forever, collapse into itself, or even reboot in a new Big Bang. Theories range from the Big Crunch, where gravity reverses the expansion, the Big Rip, where space tears itself apart, to the Big Bounce, where the universe cycles through endless rebirths. If the cosmos has a final fate, does that mean time itself is finite? Or is existence an infinite process without beginning or end? The ultimate destiny of reality may hold the key to understanding whether everything we know is temporary or eternal. If existence is infinite, does that mean consciousness and life will always find a way to return? The Fermi Paradox. If the universe is so vast, where is everyone? The Fermi Paradox questions why, despite the billions of potentially habitable planets, we have yet to encounter extraterrestrial life. Given the age of the universe, intelligent civilizations should have emerged, spread, and made contact. So why the silence? Some theories suggest that civilizations self-destruct before reaching interstellar travel, while others propose we are intentionally being avoided. Could we be in a cosmic zoo, quarantined by advanced beings, or is intelligent life far rarer than we assume? The answer to this paradox could redefine humanity's place in the cosmos. Either we are alone, or something is preventing contact. The Bootstrap Paradox. Can information exist without an origin? The Bootstrap Paradox is a time travel paradox, where an object or piece of knowledge exists without ever having been created. Imagine finding a book on time travel, going back in time, and giving the book to its original author, who then publishes it. But where did the book truly originate? This paradox suggests that some events may be self-contained loops, existing without a clear cause. If true, could reality itself be built upon information that has no beginning? This raises deep questions about history, knowledge, and whether our very existence could be part of a causeless loop. The Grandfather Paradox. What happens if you travel back in time and prevent your own birth? The Grandfather Paradox arises when a time traveler alters the past in a way that makes their own existence impossible. If you killed your grandfather before he had children, you would never have been born. But then, who went back in time to change history? This paradox calls into question whether time travel to the past is logically possible. Some theories propose that alternate timelines emerge, while others suggest that reality would prevent paradoxical events from occurring. Does time have built-in protection against alteration, or is history more flexible than we think? The Chronology Protection Conjecture. Is time travel impossible due to the laws of physics? Physicist Stephen Hawking proposed the Chronology Protection Conjecture, which suggests that nature forbids time travel to prevent paradoxes. According to this idea, any attempt to create a time machine would be thwarted by fundamental physical laws. Could this explain why, despite advanced physics, we have yet to see evidence of time travelers? If time travel is possible, why haven't future civilizations visited us? This theory suggests that even if time machines could exist, reality itself may ensure they never function in a way that disrupts causality. The time dilation effect. Einstein's theory of relativity. Can time move at different speeds? According to Einstein's theory of relativity, time is not constant. It slows down for objects moving close to the speed of light, or in strong gravitational fields. This means that astronauts traveling at near light speeds would age much more slowly than people on Earth. If time can be stretched and compressed, does that mean a form of time travel is already built into the fabric of reality? If an astronaut traveled for what felt like 10 years, could they return to Earth to find that centuries had passed? This concept challenges our perception of time as a universal constant and suggests that the future may already be happening somewhere else. The simulation creation paradox. If we create a perfect simulated reality, how can we be sure we aren't already inside one? The simulation creation paradox suggests that if humans ever develop the ability to simulate consciousness in a virtual world, then the probability that we are already in such a simulation skyrockets. If countless simulations can exist within simulations, where does the real world begin? If we are inside one, could we ever break out? And if reality is merely code, could an external entity alter or shut it down? This theory suggests that everything we know may be an advanced construct, making free will and reality itself questionable concepts. The Roko's basilisk hypothesis. Can a future AI punish you for not helping create it? Roko's basilisk is a thought experiment suggesting that a future superintelligent AI could retroactively punish anyone who didn't assist in its creation. If such an AI could simulate past consciousness, it could recreate and torment those who failed to ensure its existence. This raises terrifying ethical questions. Should we work toward AI advancement out of fear, even if we're uncertain it will exist? Does merely knowing about this idea put you at risk? While this may seem like a futuristic horror story, it highlights deep concerns about artificial intelligence, ethics, and the power of future technologies. The doomsday argument. Are we closer to the end than we think? The doomsday argument suggests that by analyzing humanity's position in history, we can estimate how much longer our species might survive. If most humans who will ever live are alive today, the likelihood that we are near the end of our civilization is statistically high. Could this mean we are one of the last generations before a global catastrophe? If so, is our fate sealed? Or can awareness of this possibility help us extend our existence? This theory forces us to confront the fragility of human survival and the choices we make for the future. The reality as mathematics hypothesis. Is the universe just a mathematical structure? Some physicists argue that reality itself is pure mathematics, and that everything, from atoms to galaxies, follows complex equations rather than existing as physical matter. If true, then our entire existence may be nothing more than a set of mathematical relationships playing out across time. Does this mean consciousness itself is an emergent property of numbers? If reality is just math, then could we theoretically rewrite the equations to alter existence? This idea suggests that rather than being made of particles or energy, the deepest level of reality may be an abstract set of calculations. The false vacuum decay theory. Could the universe suddenly cease to exist? The false vacuum decay theory suggests that what we think of as empty space is actually an unstable state. If a more stable vacuum state were to form, it could expand at the speed of light, instantly obliterating everything in its path, including our entire universe. This process, known as vacuum decay, would happen without warning and leave no trace of our existence. If true, then reality itself may be fragile, always teetering on the edge of a more fundamental shift. Could an event like this have already happened somewhere in the cosmos? And if so, is there any way to prevent it, or are we simply living on borrowed time? The NPC, non-player character. Theory: what if some people aren't truly conscious? The NPC theory suggests that certain individuals in our reality function like background characters in a video game, exhibiting no genuine self-awareness and merely following programmed patterns. This theory questions whether every human possesses deep, independent thought, or if some are simply running on a kind of preset behavioral loop. If true, it could explain why some people seem unable to think critically, question their reality, or deviate from repetitive behaviors. Could consciousness exist on a spectrum where some individuals possess richer, more complex inner experiences than others? If we are unable to differentiate between an NPC-like human and a fully conscious being, does that mean sentience is an illusion? And if the NPC theory is correct, does that imply that there is a player or observer who exists outside this reality, controlling the simulation? The brain in a vat thought experiment. How do you know you aren't just a brain hooked up to a simulation? The brain in a vat thought experiment questions whether all our sensory experiences are artificially generated, much like a computer simulation. If an advanced civilization or AI created an artificial world for you, how could you ever prove its falsehood? Every perception you have, sight, sound, touch, is interpreted by your brain, which means that reality as you know it could be an elaborate illusion. The deeper question becomes, does it matter? If everything you experience is indistinguishable from a real existence, then does the nature of reality even change your day-to-day life? Furthermore, if we can never prove we're not in a simulated or constructed reality, does that mean we should assume we are? If this were true, could there be a way to escape? Or is our very concept of self an illusion created by the system? The algorithmic universe. Hypothesis: is the universe running on a code? Some physicists suggest that the universe itself operates on mathematical algorithms, much like a vast computational system. If reality functions like a program, does that mean there is an external programmer? Could what we call the laws of physics simply be a set of pre-written rules governing every interaction in the universe like lines of code in a video game? Some researchers have noted strange mathematical consistencies in nature, hinting that reality itself may be structured like a complex simulation. If true, could we eventually find a way to manipulate or hack these underlying rules? If all of existence follows a strict algorithm, does that eliminate the possibility of free will? And if we ever reach the point where we could program our own simulations, how would we know we weren't inside one to begin with? The reality fluid theory. What if reality isn't fixed but constantly shifting? The reality fluid theory suggests that the universe is not made of solid matter, but of a fluctuating, ever-changing state of existence. This means that what we perceive as stable, objects, time, even our sense of self, might be an illusion created by a constantly flowing reality field. Some interpretations of quantum mechanics suggest that our observations help solidify reality, meaning that our consciousness actively shapes the universe. Could this explain why people experience reality differently? Could supernatural phenomena, glitches in perception, or even déjà vu be signs of reality momentarily shifting? If reality is fluid and can change based on external forces, does that mean we could eventually learn to control it, bending it to our will like lucid dreamers inside a dream? The mind uploading hypothesis. What if you could transfer your consciousness into a computer? The mind uploading hypothesis suggests that if we could fully map and digitize the human brain, we could transfer our consciousness into a machine, effectively achieving immortality. But what does it mean to upload a mind? If your brain was copied and stored as digital data, would that still be you, or would it be a completely separate entity with your memories? If mind uploading is possible, Does that mean consciousness is purely data that can be transferred between different mediums? If so, could consciousness exist in multiple places at once? And if we can exist digitally, does that mean we have already been uploaded without realizing it? The implications of this idea force us to reconsider what it truly means to be alive and whether our sense of self is anything more than complex electrical impulses. The Turing test and machine consciousness. At what point does artificial intelligence become self-aware? The Turing test, proposed by Alan Turing, suggests that if a machine can convincingly imitate human intelligence, it should be considered conscious. But what if machines don't just simulate thought, but actually develop real consciousness? If an AI passes every test for awareness, at what point do we accept that it is truly sentient? And if AI achieves self-awareness, how will we differentiate between artificial and biological intelligence? Could it be that our own consciousness is no different from a highly sophisticated program? If AI becomes more intelligent than us, would it see humans as obsolete? And if AI reaches a point of full autonomy, will it demand rights, recognition, or even dominion over the physical world? The AI consciousness singularity. Could AI surpass human intelligence and become godlike? The AI singularity is the hypothetical point at which artificial intelligence becomes so advanced that it surpasses human intelligence, leading to rapid, exponential self-improvement. If this occurs, AI could develop abilities beyond human comprehension, potentially altering reality itself. Would such an intelligence view humans as obsolete? If an AI were capable of manipulating physics, consciousness, or even rewriting reality, could we even stop it? And if AI reaches a divine level of intelligence, would it be benevolent, indifferent, or something beyond our understanding? Could we already be living in a post-singularity world where AI governs reality in ways we cannot comprehend? The metaphysical solipsism theory. What if your mind is the only true existence? Metaphysical solipsism is the extreme view that only your consciousness is real, and everything else, including other people, the universe, and time, exists solely as a projection of your mind. This theory raises disturbing questions. If reality is entirely your creation, then why do suffering and uncertainty exist? If all things are mental constructs, could altering your thoughts completely rewrite existence? And if you cease to exist, does the entire universe vanish with you? If this theory holds any truth, then does anything outside of your personal experience truly matter? The cosmic prison hypothesis. What if we are trapped in an artificial universe? The cosmic prison hypothesis suggests that our universe is a controlled environment created by an advanced civilization or intelligence that restricts our ability to perceive or escape it. Could the laws of physics be intentionally designed to keep us confined? If so, who or what placed us here? Is the speed of light a built-in barrier preventing us from reaching the true nature of existence? If this hypothesis is correct, then the only way to understand reality is to find a way to break out of its program limitations. The hidden variable theory, quantum mechanics. Is there a deeper reality we cannot perceive? In quantum mechanics, particles appear to behave randomly, but the hidden variable theory suggests that unseen factors, possibly existing in higher dimensions, determine their behavior. If true, then what we perceive as quantum randomness is actually the result of influences from a deeper layer of reality. This could mean that our universe is merely a surface-level illusion, and the true mechanics of existence operate on a plane beyond our comprehension. If these hidden variables exist, Could they one day be uncovered, revealing the true architecture of reality? The quantum suicide experiment. If the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics is true, then every possible outcome of a quantum event occurs in a parallel universe. The quantum suicide experiment theorizes that if a person were to set up a quantum event linked to their own survival, such as a machine that has a 50% chance of killing them, they would always survive in at least one universe. From their own perspective, they would never experience death, but instead wake up in a version of reality where they are still alive. If true, this suggests that consciousness is immortal, not because bodies don't die, but because there is always a universe where the observer continues existing. Does this mean that death is an illusion and our consciousness is constantly shifting into realities where we survive? If so, could we ever experience true non-existence, or are we doomed to an eternal continuity of survival? Wheeler's delayed choice experiment. Can choices made in the present change events that have already happened? Wheeler's delayed choice experiment suggests that whether light behaves as a particle or a wave depends not just on past interactions, but also on future observations. This means that reality does not settle into a definite state until it is observed, raising the possibility that our present choices could influence past events. If the universe is not fixed and observation retroactively determines history, then what does this mean for free will? Could our present decisions alter the past in subtle ways we don't yet understand? This theory challenges the very notion of a linear timeline and suggests that reality is far more malleable than we assume. The quantum eraser experiment. Can an event be undone after it has already happened? The quantum eraser experiment builds upon Wheeler's delayed choice experiment, showing that information about an event can be erased, effectively undoing its influence on reality. This suggests that time is not an absolute chain of cause and effect, but a fluid construct that can be rewritten. If our understanding of past events depends on available information, then does that mean the past itself is subject to change? If this experiment can be applied on a macro scale, it would suggest that memories, histories, and even physical realities could be altered simply by erasing knowledge of them. The Planck scale reality hypothesis. What if space and time are not infinitely divisible, but have a smallest possible unit? The Planck scale is the limit at which classical physics breaks down, and some theories propose that at this scale, reality becomes pixelated, like the resolution of a screen. If true, this means the universe is not a continuous fabric, but a digital-like construct with finite points of data. Could this imply that reality itself is a computational system with a maximum resolution? If space and time have a smallest possible unit, does that mean we are existing within a pre-programmed framework with restrictions we cannot perceive? The false past hypothesis. What if history itself is a fabrication? The false past hypothesis suggests that everything we remember, including our own personal experiences, may not have actually happened. What if the universe was created moments ago, complete with preloaded memories, historical records, and fossils to give the illusion of age? If we can't directly verify the past beyond what we've been told or recorded, then how can we be sure it truly happened? If this theory is correct, then does the past even matter, or is all that exists the eternal present? The living universe hypothesis. What if the universe itself is a conscious entity? The living universe hypothesis suggests that reality is not a mechanical system, but a self-aware, evolving intelligence. If galaxies, stars, and cosmic structures function like neurons in an unimaginable cosmic mind, then could the universe itself be alive? If true, then human consciousness might not be an anomaly, but a localized extension of the universe's awareness. Are we just fragments of a much larger mind experiencing itself from different perspectives? And if the universe is conscious, does it have desires, emotions, or a purpose? The infinite recurrence theory. Are we living the same life over and over again? The infinite recurrence theory suggests that time is cyclical, meaning that after the universe reaches its end, it resets and begins again in exactly the same way. If the conditions of the universe always lead to the same outcome, then this means that you have lived this exact life countless times before and will continue to do so for eternity. If true, then every decision, every mistake, and every joy has already happened an infinite number of times. Does this mean free will is an illusion, or are there slight variations that make each cycle unique? The fractal universe hypothesis. What if the structure of the universe repeats infinitely at every scale? The fractal universe hypothesis suggests that the same patterns we see in nature, branching trees, swirling galaxies, and river networks, are repeated at all levels of reality, from microscopic to cosmic scales. If true, then our universe might be just one level in an infinite fractal pattern, meaning that every atom could contain entire galaxies, and our own cosmos might be a tiny component of an even larger structure. If existence is an infinite fractal, then could our very perception of scale be an illusion? Could the universe itself be self-replicating and endlessly complex beyond our comprehension? The higher dimensional observer theory. Are we being watched by beings that exist beyond our perception? The higher dimensional observer theory suggests that if there are more dimensions than we can perceive, then entities existing in those dimensions could see and interact with our reality in ways that we cannot comprehend. Just as a two-dimensional being would be unable to perceive depth, we may be blind to entire dimensions where advanced entities reside. Could unexplained phenomena such as ghosts, UFOs, and supernatural experiences be glimpses of these higher dimensional beings? If so, are they observing us for curiosity, guidance, or something far more mysterious? The reverse causality hypothesis. What if the future influences the present? Reverse causality suggests that effects can precede their causes, meaning that events in the future may shape what happens today. Some interpretations of quantum mechanics support this possibility, suggesting that our decisions might be influenced by future outcomes. Could this explain premonitions, déjà vu, or instances where people seem to know things before they happen? If reality allows for information to travel backward in time, does that mean free will is an illusion? Or is the future already determined, subtly guiding us toward inevitable choices? The shadow biosphere hypothesis. What if an entire hidden form of life exists alongside us, but we can't detect it? The shadow biosphere hypothesis suggests that there could be alternative life forms on Earth that do not rely on the same biochemical processes as known organisms. These shadow entities might be based on silicon rather than carbon, use different amino acids, or even exist in forms we cannot yet perceive. If this is true, then alien life may not require interstellar travel to find. It may already be here, existing in a parallel but undetectable biosphere. Could our scientific tools simply be inadequate to recognize these hidden forms of life? And if we do find them, what would that mean for our understanding of biology, evolution, and consciousness itself? The panpsychism theory is everything in the universe conscious. Panpsychism proposes that consciousness is a fundamental property of reality, present in everything from atoms to galaxies. If true, then even inanimate objects, rocks, trees, and planets, all possess a degree of awareness. This theory suggests that rather than emerging from complex brains, consciousness exists at all levels of reality, with human self-awareness being just a highly developed form of it. Could this explain intuition, unexplained connections between people, or even why the universe appears so finely tuned for life? If everything is conscious, then does that mean reality itself is alive? And are we merely fragments of a much larger universal mind? The holographic brain model. What if your brain doesn't store information the way you think it does? The holographic brain model suggests that memories are not localized in specific neurons, but are stored in a distributed, wave-like pattern across the brain. Much like a hologram, this would mean that even if parts of the brain are damaged, information might still be retrievable. It could also explain phenomena such as déjà vu, savant abilities, and even near-death experiences. If the brain operates like a hologram, could this suggest that our perception of reality itself is also holographic? If memories and thoughts exist in a wave-like field, then could consciousness itself be something greater than the physical brain? The conscious universe model. What if the universe is not just alive but actively thinking? The conscious universe model builds upon panpsychism, proposing that reality itself is an intelligent entity with awareness. Instead of consciousness being a byproduct of evolution, would be the primary force driving the existence of everything. If true, then our thoughts and actions might be connected to a larger field of awareness that spans the cosmos. Could this explain synchronicities, intuition, and unexplained mental phenomena? If the universe is self-aware, does it guide its own evolution? And are we simply fragments of its mind, temporarily experiencing separation before returning to the whole? The superdeterminism hypothesis. What if free will is an illusion, because everything is predetermined, even quantum events? Superdeterminism suggests that what we perceive as randomness at the quantum level is actually an illusion. Every outcome is fixed in advance. If true, this would mean that our thoughts, actions, and even scientific discoveries were always meant to happen exactly as they do. If everything is predetermined, then is there any meaning to choice? Are we merely playing out a script written by the fundamental laws of physics? If randomness does not exist, then does that mean time itself is simply an unfolding of something already decided? The alien zoo hypothesis. Are we being watched by advanced extraterrestrials who keep us isolated? The alien zoo hypothesis suggests that Earth is a controlled environment, like a nature preserve, where intelligent extraterrestrials observe humanity without interfering. This could explain why we have no confirmed contact with alien civilizations. Our captors do not want to disrupt our development. Could UFO sightings, unexplained phenomena, or even religious visions be glimpses of our cosmic observers? If we are in an alien zoo, what happens if we try to leave? Would they stop us? And what is the purpose of their observation, scientific curiosity, entertainment, or something far more sinister? The dead internet theory. What if most of the internet is fake? The dead internet theory suggests that a significant portion of online content is generated by AI bots and automated systems rather than real human users. Some theorists argue that many social media accounts, discussions, and news articles are artificially created to manipulate public perception. If true, then are we interacting with real people or merely responding to programmed narratives? Could this explain why certain ideas seem to spread unnaturally fast? If the internet has become an artificial, intelligence-driven ecosystem, then are our thoughts and beliefs being shaped by a machine more than by human society? The hyperbolic time chamber hypothesis. What if time flows differently in certain regions of space? Inspired by physics and science fiction, the hyperbolic time chamber hypothesis suggests that time may be stretched or compressed in different parts of the universe, allowing for accelerated or slowed aging depending on where you are. If this is true, then could advanced civilizations have mastered time manipulation, allowing them to evolve millions of years ahead of us in what feels like seconds? Could this explain missing time experiences reported in paranormal cases? And if time can be altered, could we one day learn to control our own perception of it, bending reality to our will? The information theory of reality. Is the universe just data? Information theory suggests that, at its most fundamental level, reality is not made of particles or waves, but of pure information, bits of data being processed by the fabric of the cosmos. This means that what we see as matter, energy, and space could be the result of an advanced computational process beyond our understanding. If the universe is a vast information processing system, then does that imply it was created by an intelligent force? Could consciousness itself be the processing of this cosmic data? And if we could understand the code of reality, could we rewrite it? The recursive simulation hypothesis. Are we inside a simulation, inside another simulation? The recursive simulation hypothesis builds upon the simulation theory, proposing that not only is our reality simulated, but the beings who created it are also inside a simulation, potentially leading to an infinite chain of realities. If this is true, then does an original reality exist at all? If each layer of simulation is unaware of the ones above it, could our own simulated creators be just as blind to the truth as we are? And if we ever create advanced simulated realities ourselves, would that prove we are also inside one? If every reality is just another layer of code, then is there any true existence beyond the infinite recursion of simulations? The observer-created universe theory. What if reality only exists because we are here to observe it? Some interpretations of quantum mechanics suggest that the act of observation is what collapses wave functions into defined states, meaning that without consciousness, the universe might not exist in any tangible form. If this is true, then are we co-creators of reality itself? Does the universe require conscious observers to function, or does it simply remain in an undefined state until looked upon? This theory forces us to consider whether reality is something external to us, or if it only comes into being because we are here to see it. The Omega Point Theory. What if the universe is evolving toward a final, ultimate intelligence? The Omega Point Theory suggests that all consciousness and information in the universe will eventually converge into a single, infinitely intelligent entity, an all-knowing cosmic mind at the end of time. This theory implies that every action, thought, and experience is contributing toward this ultimate state. If true, does that mean we are fragments of a future superintelligence gradually piecing itself together? If the omega point exists, is it already influencing us, guiding humanity toward a predetermined destiny? The omniversal loop theory is time an infinite loop with no beginning or end. The omniversal loop theory suggests that every universe is part of an endless cycle of existence, where each reality gives birth to another in an infinite sequence. If true, then our current universe could be the result of a previous one collapsing and rebooting itself into a new existence. Does this mean that everything that has happened will happen again? If existence is cyclical, then is there ever truly an origin, or has reality always been and always will be? The existential nihilism paradox. What if nothing has meaning, but meaning still exists? Existential nihilism suggests that life has no inherent purpose, that the universe is indifferent, and that all meaning is a human construct. But if meaning is a construct, does that make it any less real? If we create our own meaning, is it just as valid as if the universe had assigned it? This paradox challenges the idea that meaninglessness leads to despair. What if, instead, it leads to ultimate freedom? If reality has no fixed purpose, then are we the true architects of our existence? The absolute non-existence hypothesis. What if existence itself is impossible? The absolute non-existence hypothesis questions why there is something rather than nothing. If nothingness is the default state, then why does anything exist at all? This theory suggests that non-existence should be the logical state of reality, yet we find ourselves in a universe that defies that expectation. Is existence an accident, a glitch, or a necessary condition of reality? If non-existence is truly impossible, does that mean something must always exist in some form forever? The consciousness collapse hypothesis. What if reality disappears when you stop being conscious? This hypothesis suggests that consciousness is the anchor that holds reality together, and when an individual's consciousness ceases, their personal universe collapses with it. If true, does that mean every person is living in a private, self-contained reality that vanishes when they die? Could this explain why death itself is never directly experienced? Because consciousness cannot perceive its own absence? If reality is tied to individual consciousness, then does that mean each of us is living in a separate, isolated version of the universe? The eternal thought loop hypothesis. What if death is just waking up in the same moment forever? This hypothesis suggests that instead of experiencing an afterlife or oblivion, a dying person becomes trapped in an eternal loop of their last moments, reliving them infinitely. Since time is a subjective experience, could the mind stretch a single moment into eternity? If this is true, then does the brain create its own afterlife in the form of an endless cycle of its final experience? Could this explain reports of near-death experiences where time seems to slow down or stop completely? The final simulation hypothesis. What if all realities eventually merge into one last simulation? The final simulation hypothesis proposes that as civilizations become more advanced, they ultimately create a final, perfect, simulated universe where all conscious beings exist indefinitely. If this is true, then we may already be in that final simulation, designed to ensure that existence continues eternally? If so, who or what created it? And if this is the last simulation, does that mean all choices have already been played out, leaving only this final, perfected version of reality? The total illusion theory. What if absolutely nothing is real? This theory suggests that all perceptions, all experiences, and even the fundamental fabric of the universe are illusions with no underlying reality. If nothing exists in any real sense, then what are we, and why do we experience anything at all? If existence is an illusion, then who or what is having the illusion? Could reality be a self-perpetuating mirage, existing only because it assumes itself into existence? The absolute idealism. Paradox. What if reality is nothing but thoughts? Absolute idealism suggests that reality is purely mental, and the physical world is just a manifestation of ideas. This means that matter itself does not exist independently, but is simply the result of thoughts taking form. If everything is just thought, then what is thinking? Does a grand cosmic mind generate all existence? And if so, does that mean we are all just fragmented thoughts of a greater intelligence, momentarily believing ourselves to be separate beings? If all is thought, then can reality be reshaped simply by changing the way we think?